Joining me now is the Nationals leader, David Littleproud. David, thanks so much for your time on AM Agenda. Appreciate it. This, I can see, is really weighing on you this morning. Why are you so emotional?
Well, we didn't want to get to this juncture, Laura. The reality is there was a pathway through this, and that's the frustrating thing. The last 3 or 4 days have been mismanaged poorly. Not all at the feet of Sussan Ley. The circumstances she was provided were difficult, but to get to a juncture whereby the sovereign decision of the National Party was disrespected, and that we had three very proficient shadow ministers and senators who we made very clear represented the position of the National Party room after we had conceded and tried to support Sussan in abstaining in the lower house until our amendments were tested, and that I was going to vote against the entire bill if they didn't get up those amendments, for then to be able to send their 3 letters of resignation with a further letter again, reinforcing after conversations I'd had with her that if she took the stance that these 3 should resign, then that would trigger the fact that the entire National Party ministry would resign in solidarity, and we have done that. And that it means that we're at a juncture where no one was prepared to serve in a Sussan Ley ministry, and that she has forced the coalition into an untenable position. That's the sad place that we've got to. And it's now a matter for her to work through. We're going to get on with the job of doing what we've done, and I'm proud of our record. I mean, if you look at the policies that are on the books at the moment of the coalition, there's about 5 of them, and they're all from the National Party. So, we're going to focus on policy and get on with it. It's disappointing. We don't think it should have got to this, but we gave every opportunity, every out along the way. It wasn't taken, and therefore our party room felt there was no other position. We were not going to stand by and have 3 of our senators be made scapegoats. We were going to stand with them because they did the right thing. They did the courageous thing. They did what they thought was right in this legislation, and that's what our party room got to.
What other option did she have? I mean, John Howard has even said today that the party rules are sacred. It would be setting a precedent. So what should have been the carve-out here? How would you have explained this if these 3 senators were allowed to stay?
Well, I think Peter Credlin articulated very clearly last night that there is a far more nuanced response than what John Howard has there. But the reality is this: if we'd been able to have another joint party room and even a shadow cabinet to debate these and ruminate these out and to scrutinise them, wouldn't you think that a bill as complex and far-reaching as this deserved the respect of the collective wisdom, not just of a further shadow cabinet, but the joint party room? There's a lot within the joint party room
and I don't want to go on how we normally do, where I interrupt you and there's a bit of back and forth here, but I think this is a really important point, because Australians have come back from their summer break. They've seen this chaos in Canberra, an emergency sitting of Parliament, something that Sussan Ley has been calling for the better part of 3 weeks. You say, and I think you're right, that it has been a rushed process, but as she was calling for that all over the summer break, what was your reaction? What was going on behind the scenes there? Because I think the Australian people will be looking at this going, hang on, you demanded Parliament be recalled. Now you're saying it's a rushed process and no one's happy with the outcome on your side of politics.
Well, exactly. In fact, I was calling for it before Christmas as well, because, Laura, what we could have done is what one part of this bill was around a Migration Act that strengthened the powers of the Immigration Minister to deport those that perpetrate hate and spew hate here. That could have been the first bill that could be put in before Christmas. We all had agreement on that. But what it also would have been the trigger is to start a parliamentary process that normally happens in the creation of bills, that we could have explored and actually scrutinised this bill before Christmas, straight after Christmas. That would have got us to a position where we weren't making decisions predicated in a matter of hours, not weeks and days, that even a simple bill gets. That's why we should have come back before Christmas. We could have shown real intent around migration. That was one of the recommendations of their special envoy into anti-Semitism. That would have been a strong symbol straight away. And it would have started the process for the balance of this. And we wouldn't have got to the chaotic position where Anthony Albanese had to cut one part of his omnibus bill before he split them. So this is where there was. And to understand parliamentary process means that the more time you have to scrutinise it, then the more chance you have of getting people on board. And that is what happened. We ran out of time and no one was afforded a process. And no one in even the Liberal Party was afforded the same process as the National Party, to be candid. I mean, we had probably 9 or 10 party room meetings and we had shadow ministers explaining elements and we had them changed and negotiated. But that should always come back to the collective wisdom of the room. But then that's why there was an out not to accept those 3 resignations. That's the disappointing thing, that the proper process was thrown out. So why make scapegoats of 3 courageous senators who were acting on the direction of their party room? That is what didn't need to happen. And we made it abundantly clear that if you do this, you are ignoring the fact that there is consequence, and that's the disappointing thing.
So, your criticism is directed very much towards Sussan Ley this morning. That has come through clearly with our conversation this morning and the press conference that you held just a few moments ago. So this is about not being able to work with Sussan Ley. This is why the coalition is split. I'm sure you do understand the gravity of that, David, and what that means for Sussan Ley's leadership.
Oh, well, we don't take this decision lightly. That's why we were very upfront, very honest for 2.5 days that if she didn't understand the gravity of the situation and that our party room got to a position that we were going to vote against it. I was going to vote against it if I was given the opportunity after the amendments failed in the House. So she understood the gravity of it, but there was an opportunity that she could have grabbed in understanding the unique nature of the circumstances that were put in front of her, that she didn't need to actually go down a course of action, one that saw 3 senators who had the courage of their conviction doing what their party room had instructed them to do, and that the rest of us were going to do. I know you're going to say that it's up to the Liberal Party here to decide who their leader is, but you care about the coalition more than you do Sussan Ley. So to me, what you're saying this morning is you'd like to see her go. No, I'm saying the reality is that's not for me to weigh into. Giving gratuitous advice about leadership from another party. You're weighing into it anyway, not directly, but by this action this
Laura, morning. You know what it does to a leader.
I have to say to you, I have to say to you, and I know the gravity of the situation that we have created here, but what do we do? What do we do, Susan? Do we do, Laura? Do we stand by and just allow this to happen? I can't dictate the circumstances and the terms and what's happening within the Liberal Party at the moment. All I can do and influence is those within the National Party and protect those men and women in my party room that have done the right thing. What happens outside that is a consequence and a decision that Sussan Ley got to make. She made that decision. She refused to give back those jobs after she accepted their resignations that I said if you did, there would be a consequence. It all laid to her. The decision process ultimately always came back at her feet. She made that decision. She knew the consequence, and I've been very upfront and very clear about what that consequence would be. But the National Party room will not stand by and see 3 of their courageous senators done over like this. That's not how we operate. That's not how the culture of the National Party operates. And while I'm the leader of it, I'll never let that seep into it where someone can just be cast aside for the expedience of any other movement.
Your 2 parties are diminished now in power in the parliament, I think it is fair to say. David, as I said before, I think you would prefer that the coalition remain. I understand why you say it's untenable this morning. At what point do you restart the conversation to get back together? Would it have to be under a different leader, or if there is, even if there is another leader, do you remain split?
Oh, look, I think last time we did everything in our power to try and keep the coalition together after the election. I think some time apart probably a good thing. I think we've had challenges since that. We tried to do the right thing by the coalition, bringing it back, giving time for it to get up on its feet. I think the Liberal Party's still working themselves out, and we'll let them do that. And I don't think, in all honesty, it's probably best that we're not inside the tent having influence in a joint party room. I think some time apart is probably a good thing, but I believe in a coalition, but not at any cost, not without respect, not without understanding, not being forced to vote away without with having consequences hung over you. That's not how you operate. That's not the coalition that I've been part of for 9 years. So I think it's probably a healthy thing for the Liberal Party to have some time to get themselves together, and you never close doors. But we'll be true to our values, our beliefs. We didn't do this lightly. But I'm not going to idly step by and see 3 of my courageous senators being prosecuted.
Any parting words for Sussan?
No, look, I wish her all the best, and I hope that that obviously from here our focus will be on Anthony Albanese and what he's doing in this country. We'll be going hard, and I'm sure that we'll be able to work constructively, albeit from different platoons. But the war will still continue, and we'll just have 2 different armies going at it for the time being.
David, always appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.